Good afternoon. I am joined by Mr. Yianos Kontopoulos, the CEO with the Athens Exchange Group. I'm Sotiris Nikas with Bloomberg News, and we'll start our debate straight away so as not to waste time in unnecessary small talk. Now, Greek economy is running. We can see this. What we can also see is that the Athens Stock Exchange is probably not doing the best it could for this, although it scores better than other markets. Why is this? And what can you do to change this? Well, first of all, I'm not certain that this holds water. Well, okay, we can definitely do better. We can always do better. This is not up for debate. But I believe that there is a narrative, like many other narratives in Greece, that when we decide to do something amongst ourselves, especially if it's a negative narrative, it's very difficult to change our opinions, and we're just staring at it and repeating it and masticating it and all this. But I would like to say this. I believe that the most clear way of thinking is that 2021, approximately 8.1 billion was drawn from the Athens Stock Exchange, and we have an economy that is not yet at the 200 billion mark. And it's not fair to say that the Athens Stock Exchange did not help in the economy and growth. It's far-fetched. I do realize why one would think so and how. But the data indicates quite the opposite, and we didn't have this before. And I can say this very clearly because it has nothing to do with me. I'm very recent in all this. This is one thing. Another thing. We have started noticing an interest in companies becoming listed in the Athens Stock Exchange. We had the first big wave of introductions from Demand in June. And I believe that we will have more within the next months to come and years to come. I believe within 2023 we'll see more companies. So I don't agree that we haven't made the turn around the corner yet. As you said, the economy has followed this trajectory as well. Now, we still have a lot to do, still more to do to enhance our extrovertness, to communicate once again to the candidate companies that there are many of them. There are big ones, there are good ones, appropriate size that the Athens Stock Exchange can be of assistance in their plans for the future. I believe it's clear as day. But how will this happen? How does one attract more companies? What can one offer companies as the Athens Stock Exchange? We will talk about the other players in the game later, but as the Athens Stock Exchange, how can this, attraction actually happen? Possibly a double introduction? Is it a double listing? Well, the Americans say that there's more than one way to skin a cat. We can actually talk about things like an institution as a private company and talk and discuss with these candidate companies for listing and to showcase the benefits that are extended by one being listed in the Athens Stock Exchange. Many times it depends on something that is a conjuncture. I mean, the cost of money has started rising as of late, and this makes the scales tip towards the Athens Stock Exchange. The fact that private equity as an option or a choice either removes the control of the company or it fills the company with huge debt is indeed a second reason. What still remains a fact is that we will need to show them what their options are. The fact that in a very difficult conjuncture, the Athens Stock Exchange was able to lift more than 8 billion. It shows that when the product is good, when the company is healthy, there will be demand from the domestic market as well, which is lagging behind as well, but also from abroad. Out of this 8 billion, I would say 70 to 8% came from abroad. So it came through the Greek market. In this sense, our market is a gateway, and it's a gateway that can work very, very well. We saw this with the London conference, from the quality and the degree of participation and the interest we had for our big listed companies, and I think that we have still a lot to say. Now, because you mentioned it, and it was something that Mr. Vatellis mentioned earlier, what about the London conference? What was the major message that you took home and you can discuss here? Well, that it's up to us to go out and show our positive side and what we have to offer to the foreigners' portfolios as investment options and choices. And there are a host of them, both the existing ones and the ones that can come in the future. You mentioned earlier the dual listing, which is an idea that I ascribe to as well. Why does one use dual listing? When you start from a position that is not dominant in a market as a stock exchange and you wish to attract very big companies, an easy way, or rather a different way, is to collaborate with another stock exchange indirectly and to draw funds for this company that may not have the potential or the capacity to assimilate everything through your own market, but in tandem with another company and another stock exchange abroad that is far larger, to operate and function much more positively both for the stock exchange abroad or the company that will do the introduction or is going to do this import. Let's say that we have a very big technology unicorn in Greece. It makes sense that it will not come to the Athens Stock Exchange. If it's something over 1 or 2 billion, they will go to Nasdaq. I'm simplifying things, of course, but going to Nasdaq has a substance and an essence, the first move, and you need to receive the proper rating and receive it on the day one. But after day one, when you're at 1 or 2 billion, you're one in 1,000 companies. So things may be much more dire in the weeks or months to come, particularly if you're not a member of an indicator. If you introduce yourself to Greece, well, you will be in Greece, and I will steal what you said earlier, national champion or a potential national champion, covered by all international companies with good research. You acquire access to investment funds in Europe that more often than not cannot invest in stock exchange values outside Europe. You have the advantage of having longer trading hours. I would say that it's a solution that is compatible to overcome this thing that we have, that we are in a very dire position and we can't break free. There are ways, all it takes is imagination and work. Well, allow me, if we don't have many unicorns in Greece, I don't think that it's a very random example. Well, my examples are never random, but we need to think outside the box. Right, let's focus on the outside of the stock exchange stakeholders, the government. What can the government do to help in this effort? You have declared at times that further privatization of the international airport of Greece could happen through the government. Is this a way for the government to give an additional boost on its behalf to the effort made by the Athens Stock Exchange? Are there other ways? Well, there are a number of ways. What about taxation instruments? Well, none of them is a panacea, okay? But if we start with the big companies, like, say, the International Airport of Athens, the Athens International Airport, we're starting from a negative narrative for the Greek capital market and the Greek stock exchange. The way to change a negative narrative is to start having positive surprises. To have such a surprise like the Athens International Airport would be such a positive surprise. Why? Because it will attract more foreign investors from abroad. It will lead to a rebalancing of many portfolios in Greece. When a foreign investment comes in and spends time to do a study as to what sort of valuation to attribute to the Athens International Airport, they will ask what else is there available in this market. So the size and the volume is so large that in and of itself gives you a possibility for a reset and a restart. This is why it's so important to a great extent. So what do governments do? Governments and the TAIPED give you a signal. They signal the market and the Greek investors themselves that they too vote in favor of the Athens Stock Exchange. It's an appropriate way to attract funds and investments and an appropriate way for the capital market to work, which is not something that has been done for quite a long time. The same can happen with the banks. We're talking about the divestment of the THS. I mean, we're talking about the taxation framework or the general framework for divestment in the next months, and this starts becoming another choice, another option that will increase liquidity. So it works at various different levels to change the image and the picture of the market. Now, taxation is always important, but I'm not of the opinion that if you give taxation incentives, you can change something in substance. It's a second-order role. It does not mean that we haven't tried it. We have a team in the Athens Stock Exchange that work very closely with the government and with various ministries, depending on the competence and the specialty they had, with Digicom as well. Because it's not just a governmental decision. We need to convince those on the outside to say that what we will lose in the short term, fiscally speaking, we will regain for this reason or the other later. And it shows that you improve the function of the market, like the capital tax, capital accumulation tax, which is irrational in a country that needs to draw capitals not only from the stock exchange. The sale tax will be halved, and all these have already been announced as of September at the Thessaloniki Expo, International Expo. There will be incentives for small and medium enterprises. Small and medium enterprises has to do with a company being listed or not. And I believe that these are very important things, but they come second, they rank second. And I spend so much time and grey matter for these that are secondary. We will do the same and more for the primary ones. Okay, you said 8 billion was drawn in 2022. What about 2023? What sort of a year will 2023 be? Will we follow the same direction? Will we have something like the Eleftherios Venizelos Athens International Airport to know which direction we're headed to? Will it be a mix, hybrid? No, to be honest, I have no idea. Okay, I mean, what we need to do is to do our work, is focus on our work. And I believe that the components and the ingredients are all there for us to utilize. As you said in your first question, we're lagging behind. So we do have our work cut out for us. Whether it will be an exceptional year, a good year or not, well, I believe that it will be good as compared to what happens in the international horizon. Now, in a nutshell, because it's an election year, it has already been mentioned, and we know that in election years there is, well, a bit of a turmoil. What do you see in 2023 for the economy and the Athens Stock Exchange? Well, I'll say the same thing I told in London. The elections do not count as much as we believe they do. What will matter is to what extent the policies that will come out of the new platforms will change. And this is word to the wise. Right, okay, I can see the bell has been rung, but we do have another minute. I have a brief question. I don't know whether you've given it much thought. You must have, to an extent. When your tenure is up, what would you like the market to look like? Well, I would like the market not to need me, and I don't want to be needed now either. But I want us, and this is something I do in all the jobs I've done, I think that you need to strike a good balance, a good equilibrium, and to give the opportunity to the people you work with to rise up. And I believe that regardless you have a reasonable plan, or you've already succeeded and you need to move forward, or you have failed and you simply need to butt out. Thank you very much. I wish we had more time. Thank you once again for being here with us.